When I was 10 years old, my mother worked in Kirkland, a really lovely town that nestles against the shores of Lake Washington. We lived about 20 miles south of there, and sometimes on the weekends she needed to stop into the office to drop something off or pick something up, and I would ride along with her. We would drive up the Lake Street and back down again. It was like no other city in our area. Kirkland is definitely unique. One day, I made a very bold declaration without a lot of forethought, which was, when I grow up, I'm going to live in Kirkland. Sometimes we have no idea the power of our words, especially at the age of 10. Fast forward to my later 20s, I found myself working at a spot on Lake Washington called Carillon Point. It was sort of like winning the workspace lottery. Carillon Point is home to a gorgeous waterside hotel, several restaurants and businesses, and I was to work at 5000 Carillon Point. Not long after that, I bought a house in Kirkland, just about a mile from the lake in the downtown area, and have been happily installed there ever since. The power of thought, words, and surroundings is my point. William Morris, a poet, writer, and political activist who lived in Victorian England, said, "Have nothing in your house that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful." When I came to Kirkland, I started to live by this quote, not only applying it to my home, but also acknowledging that I had planted myself in a hometown that was beautiful and useful for me. Since then, I've noticed that when I speak something out, it tends to happen, whether I'm speaking it intentionally or not. I've made a study of how we think, speak, and what that does to our lives. And every day, I'm aware of how that's shaping me even now. Welcome to Kirkland, Carillon Point, and the surrounding area. Here's a look around.
It's bustling. Okay, let's do the big things out of the way. Are you good? So hey.
Kirkland feels like a small town, but it's definitely vibrant. The shops and lakeside residences sprawl along the shore and provide a feast for the eyes. We are modern, but historic. Upscale, but modest. We are luxe, but we are grounded. In my opinion, it's just right for all tastes. Park Lane, which runs perpendicular to the lake, is one of our cutest streets and has stayed much the same since I moved here. Home decor shops, restaurants, coffee houses, and bakeries are the hot spots here. Moving on to the lakeside of this area, we have the Gunnar Nordstrom Art Gallery, who, yes, is part of the Nordstrom department store family, the Sur La Table Kitchen Store, and historic brick buildings, reminding us that it's important to honor the past architecture and beauty of the town. Marina Park is where our farmers market takes place every Wednesday afternoons in the summer, and where many gatherings and festivals take place throughout the year. Downtown Kirkland was made for people to congregate. Everyone seems to have a dog, except for us, and pedestrians are absolutely confident about who has the right-of-way on the streets, and I can tell you that it is not the drivers. In the summertime, the neighborhoods are flowery and offer a very pretty show for people who are running, walking, or biking. If you're visiting the Seattle area, don't miss Kirkland. I've heard people say it feels like Sausalito in California, and I remember having an email conversation with a shop owner in London because I was buying something online, and he said he'd been to Kirkland, and if he were going to move to the US, he would move to Kirkland. I thought that was a really random but great compliment considering how very extraordinary London is. On the north shore of Lake Washington, and tucked behind a hilltop line of trees, sits an almost 100-year-old restored Catholic seminary property called the Lodge at St. Edward's State Park. The seminary was built in 1931 by Bishop Edward John O'Day, and it operated for 45 years. In 1976, after declining enrollment, it was sold to the state of Washington to keep it out of the hands of private developers. It now sits on the grounds of St. Edward's State Park and is in possession of a lease for the next 62 years. Prior to its restoration, it sat abandoned on 316 acres. I remember coming to the park for picnic lunches. People had thrown rocks through the windows, which was really sad, but even with that, it was always a gorgeous property. Fast forward to 2017, a restoration developer from Portland, Oregon, decided to lease the building and restore it to the tune of $57 million. It took several years in order to complete that work. What I really like about their work is they didn't overhaul and modernize the inside of the building. They meticulously restored it back to what it was all those years ago. They repaired the long locks on the windows. They cleaned and used the old light fixtures in the main restaurant that used to be the dining hall for the seminary students. They upgraded the dorm rooms and made them into hotel rooms for guests. And any restoration of this magnitude wouldn't be complete without a spa. In May of 2021, they opened as the Lodge at St. Edward's State Park. On the weekend they opened, my husband and I drove out to see the new hotel. It's a delightful and beautifully hidden spot for a weekend getaway or spa day. I'm linking their information into the description box. They've got a really pretty website. You should take a look. This is one place I know I'll always return to. Getting back down into downtown Kirkland, I thought it would be fun to stop at a couple of French bakeries as I was in the mood for a croissant. The first one, the brand new Le Croissant Bar, opened up the same week I was there. As you can see, they have some very photogenic offerings, but alas, I left without my plain croissant as they were still baking in the ovens. So I hopped in the car and drove literally around the corner and down the street to the Kirkland Bakery, which used to be called the French Bakery, and was met with a fully blooming garden just outside their front door. I knew this was what I was after. Their menu is that of a more traditional French bakery, and there I did find the croissant I had been craving. It had been some time since I'd been here, and I see they've expanded their footprint, and good for them. I won't let very much time pass before I go back for a sampling of some of their other pastries. And this time I'll take my husband, who has apparently never been there. It's high season for roses, and I have been fully enjoying my favorite rose book called The English Roses by David Austin. It's full of the most spectacular photographs and information about how to care for roses, and even if I didn't have one rose bush, I would own this book. I hope you enjoy it too. In addition to my rose book, I picked up a copy of The Language of Flowers. It's a sweet little book first printed in England in the 1960s that contains an exhaustive list of every type of flower and the meanings behind them. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, if you gave a bouquet of flowers to someone, each flower was chosen for its meaning. If the recipient knew the meanings, they would understand the intentions of the sender. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and I'll see you in another episode. In the meantime, surround yourself with the things you love and design your life by speaking wonderful things into existence. Benny! Benny! Hey! Ben! Come here! Finnegan! Come on!